This stormwater management training is a continuation of the material covered in Part 1. This training provides a holistic view of the maintenance work that ensures the stormwater BMPs function well. This part of the training covers 3 topics. The first topic, maintenance of stormwater BMPs, provides the elements of maintenance and the tools to assure the maintenance is properly performed. The second gives an example of using a checklist to inspect a BMP. The final topic provides several examples of commonly occurring maintenance issues. Now let's talk about the maintenance work. As previously mentioned, the purpose of maintenance work is to ensure the stormwater BMPs function as designed. For example, the inlet of a basin must be clear of obstacles such as vegetation, trash, and sediment so that the runoff can freely flow into the basin and get treated. These are some examples of good maintenance on the inlets of NJDOT's stormwater basins. However, it's not always sunny here in New Jersey. It has to rain sometime. Here are a few examples of inlets in bad condition. These can be easily fixed by clearing the sediment, the trash, and vegetation. However, the quick fix will not always be the best way to keep these bad conditions from reoccurring. We need a long-term, consistent way to prevent these bad situations. So, what is the best way to fix a bad situation? The fix is best remembered as Miami. This acronym stands for Maintenance Plan, Inspection, Actions, Preventative Action, and Correction Action, Maintaining Records, and it is an iteration that you have to evaluate annually for the effectiveness of the maintenance plan. Miami is required by the Stormwater Management rules, under which all major development is required to have a maintenance plan for stormwater BMPs. The next slides will explain Miami. The first M of Miami stands for Maintenance Plan. The Stormwater Management rules at NJAC 7:8, subchapter 5.8, and so forth, spell out the components of a maintenance plan. It is basically a planning and tracking tool containing subplans, including inventory of the stormwater BMPs, information about the stormwater BMPs, planning of preventive and corrective maintenance actions, planning of the logistics, planning of the disposal methods, planning of the costs, and education of staff for training on safety procedures and maintenance work. It can be basically grouped into 3 areas: information, planning, and education. To make it easy to remember, you can think of it as pie. Basically, making a maintenance plan is as easy as making a pie. First, the maintenance plan needs to have an inventory of all BMPs, including the type of BMPs, sand filter, wet pond, their location, located by GPS references or state plane coordinates, and their outfalls. Second, the maintenance plan needs to provide detailed information of each BMP present. The detailed information includes their design information, such as the depth of the basin, the depth of the pond, the number of inlets, the size of the outlet orifices, the design detention time, the drain time, the material comprising the basin bottom, whether vegetation is required, etc. Also, the maintenance plan shall include as-built plans, soil log reports, field testing data, and the manufacturer's warranty and operation and maintenance manual for specific machines or manufactured treatment devices. Third, the maintenance plan shall have plans for preventive and corrective maintenance tasks. We will talk about those later. Also, the frequency and schedule of the maintenance tasks are required. For example, the basin may need to be inspected quarterly, and the sand layer of a sand filter may need to be replaced every 2 years. Fourth, the maintenance plan shall have a plan for the logistics required to perform maintenance tasks. It includes what type of maintenance personnel and the skills required to perform the tasks, and the equipment, tools, and supplies needed to do the work. You may think that the maintenance yard already has everything you need, but it is easy to overlook some crucial element in the planning of logistics. Let's take a look at what tools and equipment you may need to maintain stormwater BMPs. Here we list some of the tools and equipment needed to perform maintenance work. Some of them are common items such as a lawnmower, pry bar, shovels. However, some of them are less common, such as a vacuum truck and a lightweight backhoe. Well, why do we need a vacuum truck? Some types of MTDs have a sump or collection area at the bottom to store settled solids and debris, and the opening of the MTD may be too small for a person to climb inside to dig out the collected material. Therefore, you will need a vacuum truck to remove the sediment with suction. Also, why do we need a lightweight backhoe? As previously mentioned, soil compaction must be avoided in infiltration basins. Therefore, when you replace sand or regrade the soil of the infiltration basin, you must use a lightweight backhoe to do the work. A maintenance plan also needs to include the disposal method and the cost. The disposal method has to consider how to transport the removed vegetation and sediment to the disposal site. Measures may be necessary to prevent leakage of wet sediment during transport. And the site may be municipal or privately operated, or in some cases involve on-site disposal. Since permits are often required for disposal at these facilities, it is essential to plan ahead for the costs, the time, and the tasks associated with obtaining these permits. After planning the tasks and subjects mentioned above, you will have an estimate of the costs involved, which are always required for budgeting purposes and for compliance with the stormwater management rule. A maintenance plan shall also include a plan to educate and train staff regarding safety procedures and measures, especially the safety procedures for confined space entry. The maintenance plan shall also set up a training schedule for maintenance staff on the stormwater BMPs, maintenance work, use of tools, operation of equipment, and record keeping of performed tasks. To recap the maintenance plan, what components are required? Basically, making a maintenance plan is as easy as remembering the word PI, which is short for planning, information, and education. The planning part of a maintenance plan includes planning of preventive and corrective maintenance actions, planning of the logistics, planning of the disposal method, planning of the costs. The information part of the maintenance plan includes inventory of the stormwater BMPs and information about the stormwater BMPs. Lastly, the education part of a maintenance plan includes education of staff on safety procedures and elements required to perform maintenance work. The next step in the solution is the I of Miami, which stands for inspection. Regular inspections of the stormwater BMPs help us discover problems before they evolve into big issues. As seen in the photos of poor conditions at Basin inlets, one may wonder when those inspections had last been conducted. Another acronym may help us remember what an inspection entails. It is the word SECOND. The Stormwater Management Rules and the BMP Manual require regular inspections and records of those inspections. However, before we hit the road to perform an inspection, we should consider how we will do them in a way that is systematic, effective, and correct. A permittee may have many basins to manage. Therefore, a tight schedule may be necessary if we are to inspect all of the basins in a timely fashion. Furthermore, we do not want to have a dispute about whether or not an inspection had been conducted, nor what problems were found in that inspection. Therefore, we want the problems that were discovered to be followed up on and actually resolved. Therefore, we need a written way to keep track of everything. All of these considerations can be addressed by using an inspection checklist, which lists the items to be inspected, tells us how to check, and provides a space to record the problems plus other important information, such as the weather on the day of the inspection, who was present, etc. It is worth noting that each type of BMP may have different items to check. An obvious example is that inspections of a wet pond will differ greatly from those of a sand filter. NJDEP has developed an inspection checklist for each of the commonly used BMPs. We will talk about them later. After the inspection, what is the next part of maintenance? The actions. They include preventive maintenance tasks and corrective maintenance tasks. Preventive action is geared towards housekeeping done on a regular basis. The corrective actions are more likely to occur incidentally in response to the problems discovered during the inspection. Here is a list of preventive actions and also of corrective actions. It is by no means a full list. The actions could be more depending on the type of BMPs and the variation of the design. For example, the sand layer of a sand filter or infiltration basin needs to be replaced at least once every 2 years. However, if these BMPs are located in an area of having high solids loading, the designer of the BMP may request a more frequent replacement of sand. The next part of maintenance work is to maintain good records of the inspection, the preventive actions, and the corrective actions taken to date. Keeping those records are also required by the Stormwater Management rules. Practically speaking, it is good to keep those records for tracking down whether or not the issues have been resolved, finding a trend, or tracking how an issue evolved, and providing as evidence the work was actually performed. The maintenance records serve as a searchable archive of the inspections and the resulting work orders for preventive actions and repairs. Finally, the maintenance work is an ongoing, evolving process. The Stormwater Management rules require that the effectiveness of the maintenance plan be evaluated annually. The maintenance plan must be adjusted according to the resulting evaluation. Maintenance personnel shall provide comments and suggestions to the manager for consideration on how to perform the work more effectively in the future. The manager shall also review the inspections and preventive and corrective records to find whether an improvement can be made. Up until now, we have talked about the need for a maintenance plan to lay out the maintenance tasks. We also talked about the inspections, the preventive actions and corrective actions, and the maintenance of records. One may wonder who has to prepare the maintenance plan, who performs the inspection, and who keeps the records. So let's talk about roles and responsibilities. Under the Stormwater Management rules, it is the design engineer's responsibility to prepare the maintenance plan because he or she is the one who best understands the requirements of the BMP design. The design engineer also has the most knowledge of all of the site conditions specific to that BMP, such as the water table, the soil, and the drainage area, etc. However, if the design engineer did not properly prepare the maintenance plan, or if the maintenance plan has been lost, the responsibility to prepare the maintenance plan may fall on the responsible party, who is typically the operator or the owner of the facility. Often a permittee will be the responsible party unless it has assigned others this responsibility. The day-to-day performance of the maintenance task falls on the maintenance managers and the maintenance crew, with each having various responsibilities. For the inspector, it is a role that can be performed by people inside the responsible party. But sometimes the inspector may be from a local authority, such as township inspectors, or from state agencies like the DEP. Let's look at an example of the checklist that the DEP has been developing as part of a series of field manuals for the maintenance work of specific BMPs. Each field manual includes the information about the specific type of BMP, visual aids for conducting maintenance, and an inspection checklist specifically tailored to that type of BMP, and the records for preventive and corrective actions. It is a template that the design engineer or the maintenance manager can change to meet the needs of their stormwater BMPs. The maintenance crew can take one field manual to do an inspection and record maintenance work every time they go out. They can read the information about the specific stormwater BMP they are going to inspect or work on. Then, they can record the inspection findings, maintenance work, or repair work performed on the checklist and keep the maintenance record in the field manual. After coming back to the office, they can hand over the field manual to the manager, who can then track down the issues and keep the inspection checklist and maintenance records in the file. Here is a look at an infiltration basin field manual. The cover is the information needed to locate the BMP. The next page is the design information regarding the dimensions of the BMP, the expected drain time, and special requirements such as a sand layer or vegetation. Then there's the checklist for inspection. On the checklist, the inspector may record site information such as the weather, the ground condition, wet, dry, ponding present. Then the checklist includes inspection items grouped by the major component of the BMP, such as the inlet, the basin bed, the embankment, the outlet, and vegetation, etc. It also has the instructions of what conditions are determined to be normal and the space to make comments and assign work orders for corrective actions. Then the inspector can sign off on the inspection form and include a date. The field manual also contains the preventive maintenance record and the corrective maintenance record. The maintenance personnel can record the work performed and any issues to be followed up on. Now let's see some photos of some common maintenance issues and how to correct them. Recall that in previous slides, we categorized the grass swale as a vegetative type BMP, which must be dry and have good vegetative cover. These three photos show ponding problems, which has caused a loss of vegetation in all or some part of the grass swales. To fix this, it is essential to find the cause of the ponding. If the outlet is clogged, remove the clog first and determine if the grass swale will dry up. If it is still ponding, it may be necessary to also check whether excessive sediment is making it difficult for water to flow. Also, revegetation of the area will be needed. This is an infiltration basin that became a permanent impoundment. It has not rained during the past 72 hours, therefore that basin should be dry. However, this photo was taken during winter time. It may be necessary to recheck at a later time if the ground is frozen. So neglecting the frozen conditions, how do we fix it? We could pump and remove the standing water, check the condition of the basin bottom and the water table. If the water table is low, we could replace the soil or the sand layer of the basin bottom. The permeability and depth of replacement soil and sand must match the original design. However, if the ponding is caused by a high water table, we may want to check the original design and the soil logs to further evaluate the original design. We may need to retrofit the infiltration basin to another type of BMP that does not need to infiltrate runoff into the ground. These two photos show a detention basin with a low flow channel. The trash racks to protect the low flow orifice are entirely clogged by debris and vegetation. The easy solution is to remove the debris and vegetation, but it may be necessary to conduct more frequent inspections and perform preventive actions more frequently to keep the trash racks clear. These two photos show trash racks of a detention basin that has been damaged. Corrective action is necessary to affix the trash racks to the outlet structures. More frequent inspections may be necessary to check if it has fallen off entirely. These two photos show problems at wet ponds. Algae blooming is one common problem of wet ponds. Aeration of the pond and removal of the algae from the pond may be needed. The bottom photo is a breach of a wet pond. A corrective action to repair the breach is needed. However, a more frequent, regular inspection may have discovered erosion and cracks in the embankment before it became enlarged. Let's summarize the presentation regarding maintenance of stormwater BMPs. In Part 1, we talked about the reasons we need stormwater management and the basic functions and types of stormwater BMPs. For the basic functions, they include pollution control, flood control, and erosion control. Also included is groundwater recharge. The types of stormwater BMPs, which we've categorized for the purpose of maintenance, include the dry basin type, the wet basin type, the vegetative type, and MTDs, which are manufactured treatment devices. In Part 2, we then talked about the required maintenance of stormwater BMPs. The Miami solution, which is the maintenance plan, inspection, action, both preventive and corrective, the maintenance of records, and the iteration of the maintenance work. For creating a maintenance plan, it is as easy as making a pie. Information about the BMPs, planning of the maintenance work, and education of the personnel. We also gave an example of a checklist, which addressed maintenance records and the items that one would have to record about a particular BMP during a site visit. Finally, we talked about some maintenance issues and how to fix them. Thank you very much for your attention. If you have further questions or require assistance, you may reach out to the DEP's Stormwater Management Unit and feel free to contact any of us. Elizabeth Dragon is the unit leader. There's also Titus Magna Now, Adriana Caldarelli, Lisa Schaefer, Jingyi Wu, Corey Annan, and Armando Alfonso. Our phone number is 609-633-7021, and here's our website information. In fact, if you'd like to see njstormwater.org, this is what the website currently looks like. Thank you again.